Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Rising Tide podcast with Tara Barot, where I share from life experience learnings to you, and you get to choose to use it, test it out, or completely ignore it and throw it away. Today's podcast is on big decisions and the fear that comes up when you make the big decision, noticing it, why does it come up, and what to do about it. But first, let me tell you about a little something I created just for you and live transitions to help you out. It's a workshop PDF available for free online at tarabarot.com/change. That's TARABAROT.com/change. All right, big decisions and fear. Why am I approaching this? Well, I spent the last 2 weeks before where there's a lot of doubts and fear creeping out in my mind. And I was just on the verge of taking action, actually. I'd made sort of the decision, but it was the actions to really make that decision concrete. And it was back and forth. Now, I'm aware for me that when there's a big decisions coming out, my mind will reason over it to try to stop it, whatever fact it is. I've learned to trust my gut feeling, intuition, but my mind will always find excuses, external reasoning to quieten that. Previously, what I used to do was to ask other people's opinion on that decision that I was about to make. And so that's looking for external validation to go forward and take an action. What I notice is the more questions you ask externally, internally, you already know the answer. It's just scaring the daylights out of you, and you just don't want to take the action because there's so much at stake, or at least it feels like that. I can notice it in other people now when I see them, especially when I'm close to them, and they keep asking for external validation over and over again. I know it's out of fear. There's something they need to make a decision on and therefore take an action afterwards, which is scaring the daylights out of them too. And first, I find it noticing. So noticing the behavior of looking for external validation. Again, it's not because you don't know what the answer is. You already know the answer. It's just scaring you to do it. So you're either trying to find reasons to go for it, so people to reinforce your choice, or you're finding for reasons not to do it so that you can avoid the fear, which sounds logical because, something's afraid and you'd like to avoid it. Fair enough. Once you notice that, you can then start taking action. The fear is not going to go away. Honestly, it's always going to be there. It's going to stick around. It's going to be there until you take that action. And slowly afterwards, it will start dissipating because you will start to see the results of the action, which is definitely not as bad as everything you imagine in your head. Most of the time. Actually, like 99% of the time. Seriously. And there's actually a relief as well. There's a relief of having taken that action and moving forward, not holding yourself back. It's not a bad thing. This whole process, it's part of our human system. I mean, when something scares us, right, as humans, we stay away because it might be a life or death threat. It used to be life or death threat, but in today's world, it's not a death threat anymore. It's still scary, but we have that reaction which used to save us from the death threats. But in today's life, you're not going to die. Something might happen, not physically to your life. But you'll be okay. So, what to take away? When there's a big decision coming up, and you start asking around you for validation or excuses not to do it, notice it. Realize what you're doing. You're asking a lot of questions and everything. All right. Go back internally. It's like, what's that big decisions you need to make? Feel the fear. Now that's an uncomfortable one, but still there. All right. Ask yourself the fear. An extra tip for that. A lot of the fear comes from financial reasons. So I asked myself, if money wasn't an issue, would I take that action? Now, straight away, I can feel a weight lift off and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. I shift the situation around and I ask myself then, okay, it's a yes. So what can I do to alleviate the fear of the financial situation? Now you can change financial situation to whatever it is for you that comes up. And then take an action. If there's a baby step you can take, do that first, because then you sort of get out of your comfort zone one step at a time. And if it's a big step, for me, it was spending money and buying my tickets to overseas, then just do that. And when you press buy, it might still be a little daunting. But once I did, I'll speak from my experience, there was a weight lifted up and I was like, it's finally happening. And so excited about it. So that's it for today. Thank you for listening and catch you around the next podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the platform you're listening to, Spotify podcast, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. And so you'll be notified for any further episodes coming out. And I'd love to hear your feedback. If this has helped you in any way, please share and tag me at Barot on most social platforms. And let it help somebody else around you. Anything. All right. Bye.